Welcome to a Wednesday edition of From the Nosebleeds. I'm Joey Gunnar here with Trent Finnegan. We got some fun conversations that we're going to get to have today about the Broncos, and we'll start it off hot with a real fun conversation. I've done a great job at kind of discrediting the Broncos' success this year. You know, I didn't think that I'd be in this position about this time of year. If I was looking at the schedule before the year began and I saw that we were 5-2, I would feel pretty good. But, you know, the way you win matters. But taking a step back from all of that, the Broncos are 5-2 and they're first in the AFC West. How sustainable is that moving forward into the upcoming weeks? Can the Broncos keep this success going? And I believe so. I believe that they can keep that success. They had a hard start. They had a real tough schedule to begin the season. They got semi-lucky with a couple games. You know, Joe Burrow being out for the Bengals was a huge break that the Broncos got. You know, you squeaked out a couple wins. You know, we talked about these last two wins against the teams that play at MetLife, the Jets and the Giants. They were not easy wins, but they went out and they won them. Moving forward into the rest of the season, can the Broncos continue to keep that success going, or is the way that they win those games going to bite them in the butt? I don't feel very confident in this team moving forward, but nonetheless, they're 5-2, first atop the AFC West. What are we looking forward going into the rest of the season? Trent, do you feel confident in this team? Are you still a little bit nervous? Can they sustain this lead? There's a lot of questions to be asked.
I definitely think that they can sustain it, but you'd be crazy if you didn't have some doubts or some nerves from watching how the last 2 weeks unfolded. And remember, this team is 2 plays away from being 7-0.
Yeah, they're one leverage call away from being 6-1.
Yeah, and that leverage call would put them over the Colts, obviously. I mean, there's so much stuff. It's so weird. It's like, wow, this doesn't look great. This doesn't look great. This feels wrong. Why are there 400 screens getting called in the first half? And then you look, and they're sitting here. They're third place in the AFC. They're just a hair below New England because New England's strength of victory is better. That's why they own the tiebreaker at 5-2 and have the 2 seed as of now. But there's so much room for the Broncos to fix their errors and for Bo Nix to find his stride and Sean Payton to improve his play calling. You get Greenlaw to get in the flow of things. Like, all these pieces have been missing, and yet they're still 5-2. And, like, I know that there's a lot of Broncos fans who are like, oh, wow, like, this looks terrible. And, yeah, there are points that it looks bad. But remember what this fan base has gone through the last 10 years.
Oh, I remember.
Like, how many 5-11 seasons, how many bad quarterbacks? Like, I get that it doesn't look good, but as it stands right now, 5-2 is 5-2. You can't argue with that. Now, the big thing is are they still going to get the hammer dropped on them come January? Like, do I have confidence in them to go into Arrowhead in Kansas City and win a playoff game?
Well, with the way they're playing right now,
I don't think that this version of this team could do it. But somehow they have a game lead over Kansas City. If they can control home field, I mean, the only seeds above them right now, Indy and New England, they show that they can go into Indy and play. New England's kind of a weird one because they're still a young team with a young quarterback, but they have a very easy schedule. It doesn't seem like the hardest road environment, but if they can stay above Buffalo and Kansas City and those playoff games become home games, that completely changes the outlook of this season.
Completely, yeah. And it's weird to think that the losses that the Broncos have had honestly feel better than some of the wins. Like, they really do. Like, you talk about the loss to the Chargers and you talk about the loss to the Colts, the only 2 losses. Those feel better than definitely for me, the win against the Giants and definitely the win against the Jets. Both of those didn't feel like hard-fought victories, while the losses felt hard-fought and they felt like the Broncos kind of got screwed out of them. But definitely towards the end of the season, I agree with what you're saying about Arrowhead. This team can't go and win an Arrowhead. The way that this team is playing right now, they cannot. Now, come January, when they actually have to, hopefully that's a totally different team. Hopefully we're seeing this team in, unison. We're seeing what they look like playing with a consistent offense rather than an inconsistent offense, which we've seen for the past 7 games, basically. So going forward, they definitely can get a win in Arrowhead. They just need to tighten up. That's it. They just need to tighten up.
I agree with you. Yeah. And what are we through 7 games? There's
Yeah.
plenty of time to do so. They still haven't had. They still haven't gotten Greenlaw going, and we'll get to that later. But he's going to have another setback coming up. But I mean, if I told you before the season, hey, the Broncos are going to be 5-2 and in third place in the AFC, would you take that? If I told you that before the season, would you be happy?
Oh yeah, 110%. I actually was looking at yesterday. I was looking at what I had for the Broncos prediction. I did like a game by game breakdown, and I had them at 4-3 at this point. 5-2. That's better than where I had them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're looking good, but on paper, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story. It doesn't.
Yeah. And the big thing is they need to take advantage of this next stretch of games. They can really, really take a hold on this AFC West. They play Dallas, Houston, and Vegas, who Dallas and Houston can be a little frisky. I mean, Dallas has a really good offense, and Houston has a really good defense, which will be troublesome for Payton and Knicks. And then Vegas is terrible. But hey, are we looking at 8-2 before they take on Kansas City at home before the bye? Like, their schedule plays into their favor here, and those are 3 games where they could easily build, keep stacking good days, and then hey, maybe this team looks a whole lot different in 4 weeks when Kansas City comes to town.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing 1 loss in the next 3, and I do believe it's Dallas because their defense is terrible. Dallas's defense is absolutely garbage. But if the Broncos offense keeps shooting themselves in the foot, they're not going to be able to get anything going, even against one of the worst defenses in the league. And Dallas's offense is incredible. They can still succeed even against the Broncos defense, who I believe is the best in the league. Now, you look at Houston after that, that should be a win. CJ Stroud's in an eternal sophomore slump. What's going on in Houston? Everything seems to be falling off for them. And then, of course, the Raiders. Do I even need to talk about them? That should be a win. So I would see them closer to 7-3, but 8-2 is very, very possible. It just depends on how you play against Dallas this upcoming week. But it's not just about the Broncos stretch of games, because you're fighting for the AFC West. You're fighting for that spot right there. You got to look at who else is contending. And the Chiefs and the Chargers are right below the Broncos, both with a 4-3 record. And their next 3 games are interesting to look at too. For the Chargers, you got the Vikings at home in LA. Then you got Tennessee. You're going to Tennessee to take on the Titans, and then at home versus the Steelers. Those games seem a bit more dangerous than the Broncos. Now, of course, Tennessee, I don't think that's a win. The Vikings, though, maybe it's just me being from Minnesota. That one's frisky. That one could be fun. Can Carson Wentz get it going against the Chargers? I think that we're all big Vikings fans this week, because if the Chargers lose, that puts the Broncos in a very good position to continue to hold their title in the AFC West. So that one I can't really put a pin in to say if it's going to be a win or a loss. It all depends on how the QB play is for the Minnesota Vikings. And then at home in LA versus the Steelers, that one I do believe is going to be a Steelers win. There's something about that Steelers team right now that just looks dangerous. What do you think about those next 3 games?
Well, first off, the poor Chargers, I mean, I almost feel bad for them. They're on like their 8th offensive tackle. And
yeah, it's unfortunate.
I will always be a Justin Herbert stan, and I thought he played great. He had 420 yards and 3 touchdowns on Sunday, but he has nobody blocking for him. And then he's got a 3rd-string running back in Vidal taking all the carries. I mean, it's a patchwork job, and Herbert's great, but it's just clear that the team around him can't help him out and elevate their game. Like, they were playing the Colts last week, and every time the Colts touched the ball, you would look at the game and be like, all right, here's 3 or 7. You never had confidence in the Chargers getting a stop. And this Vikings offense, it's weird. Wentz has shown flashes, Kevin O'Connell, quarterback whisperer. He's shown flashes that maybe his career's getting revived. But then last week he had some struggle points. I do think the Chargers can win that one. Short week, and they play at home, which helps out a lot. Tennessee's a win. Obviously, they're not a good football team. And then I do think that the Steelers, I think that they're going to lose that one. So I think that the Chargers go 2-1 in that stretch. I still think, even though they're on the downward trend, I still think that they're a solid football team, but the injuries are just adding up to a point where it's tough to win tough games.
No, 100%. And that's one thing I will never say is a good thing, despite what the, record shows, despite if the Broncos get a win or not. You don't want to win because of injuries, and the Chargers have been riddled with them. It's unfortunate to see what happens there. You want clean and real football. You don't want to see 8th string left tackles going out there and screwing the game over for your quarterback. But even with, an 8th string tackle out there, Justin Herbert has shown that he could succeed. So yeah, it's a toss-up. It does hurt to hear a little bit that the Vikings might lose because, again, got to be a homer a little bit. They're my second team. But then the Chiefs, also 4-3. They've got some tough games coming up. They're at home versus the Commanders. The Commanders have been, again, just, can't get it going. What's going on over there in Washington, D.C.? Nothing is going right for the Commanders. And then the week after that, they're at Buffalo versus the Bills. Another strange game because the Bills have not been playing like the Bills that we've known for the past half a decade almost. And then they have a bye week, but after that, they're coming to Denver to take on the Broncos. That'll be a fun one to talk about. Next 3 games for the Chiefs. What are we looking at there? I believe I'm seeing a 1-2 record, but it could be flipped. It could be different.
Yeah, I think the Commanders game is a win. Like you said, it's just there was so much magic last season with the Commanders. They won all those tight games. They got all those turnovers to go their way. They got all the late plays to go their way. Just not the same magic. I don't even know if they're going to be a playoff team, but I think that the Chiefs take care of them. I think the Chiefs take care of Buffalo. I am not convinced by this year's Buffalo Bills. They had that crazy game against the Ravens to open the season, and then they beat the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets, the Dolphins, and the Saints. Like, their strength of victory is 111. That's it's one of the worst marks in the entire AFC.
Yeah, it's proven nothing.
It's proven nothing. And the Ravens win is good, but now you look at it and it's like, I know that they have injuries, but like that defense was not that good in that game. And it was a lot of Lamar doing his thing in that game. So, and then the Bills the last 2 weeks, the Patriots stifled them in their own house, and then the Falcons stifled them. Like, they're playing these good teams and they're starting to struggle a little bit. And it's looking to me like it's more of an average roster with obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the league and Josh Allen trying to carry this roster. And it's not really working against these good teams. And the Chiefs look like the Chiefs. I mean, I know Broncos fans don't want to hear that. And I know that that's not how it looked at the start of the season, but they got Rice back now. This offense is in a flow state. I think the Chiefs go and win by 10 points in Buffalo. And then that Broncos game.
That's hard to hear. That stung me a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
That Broncos game is going to be a fun one. That is going to be loud. That is probably going to be cold. And I think that we're going to get a slugfest, kind of like that 16-14 Chiefs win we saw in November last year with the blocked field goal. I do not think that game would be high scoring. I do think that Denver's defense will be they'll have a lot of chemistry going with Greenlaw. You'll get a couple weeks of Greenlaw in the fold. I think Denver's defense will be good to hold enough. I think that the Broncos would win a low scoring one there. So I'm going to say Chiefs are 2-1 in that stretch.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But the Broncos and Chiefs game is what it's going to come down to, especially because, that's your first, or it'll be second time because they'll play the Raiders during the bye week, but that'll be your second time after facing the Chargers, playing an AFC West opponent. That'll be a really, really tough matchup. It will come down to the Broncos defense. If this Broncos offense is continuing to play like we've seen them play just in the past 2 or 3 weeks, now that we've seen them versus the Eagles, they had that great fourth quarter, Jets, great first quarter, and then the Giants, great fourth quarter again. That will not be enough to beat this Chiefs team. The Chiefs are that team, though. They're the thorn in the side. They've continued to be that throughout Patrick Mahomes' entire career. They don't go out and dominate the regular season. There's been a couple seasons where they have, but they squeak into the playoffs. They beat the right opponents. They take care of the AFC West, and then they go on a Super Bowl run. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that kind of thing happen again if the Broncos aren't able to stop them. The Broncos are going to be the brick wall standing in between the Chiefs and a Super Bowl. That is the one thing that the Broncos can do. Being in the AFC West, they need to be that blockade, and they've got a great chance to do it in week, I believe, 10, maybe 11, week 11. November 16th, I believe, is that matchup. Going to be a battle. I hope that the Broncos can pull it out, because if they can't, looking at the next 3 weeks for each team, that'll really change what the AFC West looks like. It will. It'll just change the entire landscape. But
and the Chiefs, they have a bye week before that Broncos game. And I get the Broncos have a long week because they play the Raiders on a Thursday night or before that. So the Broncos have a bit longer week. But a bye week for the Chiefs is really, really important in that matchup. They get 2 weeks to prepare for this Broncos defense. And something else I'm looking at on the Chiefs, I know we're only talking 3 weeks right now, but then the Chiefs play the Colts right after the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to play Buffalo, Denver, Indy 3 straight weeks, which is that's a challenging
tough
stretch. But like we're saying, nobody in the AFC has proven that they can beat the Chiefs when it matters. The Bills haven't, the Ravens haven't, the Broncos obviously haven't. So the Eagles in the Super Bowl is different. Until somebody goes out and proves that they can beat the Chiefs in a high-stakes game in the AFC, there's nothing that tells me that they're not going to be the conference champion again.
And that, again, really, really stings to hear. But that's what the Broncos look like. A 5-2 record, first in the AFC West. They can continue to hold that, but these next 3 weeks are crucial, especially this upcoming week against the best offense in the league in Dallas. There's going to be some very important matchups. The Broncos are in a position right now where every game means much more than it has in past seasons. You know, when you're 5-2, you're first in the AFC West. Keeping that is the most important thing. According to Sean Payton, basically, where his first goal was to win the AFC West. He wanted to win the division. He's in a position to do so right now. Just tighten up. Don't let those screws go loose again. Stop being inconsistent, and the Broncos can win these next 3 games. But it all comes down to this week. If they can win the next 3 games, it starts this week against the Dallas Cowboys. But moving on, we spoke on this a little bit yesterday, and that's Dre Greenlaw. There's been obviously conversations about him all throughout the season. Where's he been? What's going on? His injury proneness is killing the team. Yeah, that's all been a problem. But now he's sitting another week, and it's not because of an injury. It was announced yesterday that his appeal to his suspension, which we talked about, has been declined. He is not going to get an appeal. He will be suspended this week because of a very stupid and dumb mistake that he made at the end of the Giants game. Before we talk about it a little bit more, can we play the video real quick of what led to this flag? Hit it. Shaking my head. So dumb. Why are you going up and yelling at the ref? We don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about that again because we talked about that yesterday, but how dumb of a mistake it was. What matters more is that it is confirmed he will be suspended, and that puts the Broncos in a very tough position, like we were just saying, against the best offense in the league. They don't have one of their playmakers in Dre Greenlaw because of that mistake. How big of a loss is this? I think it's huge, and the matchups now are going to be very skewed in favor for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Jake Ferguson, tight end for the Cowboys. He had 7 catches, he had 7 targets. So he caught all 7 of his targets. He had 2 touchdowns against the Commanders last week. This Cowboys offense, they have been great at finding mismatches for Jake Ferguson, whether it's over the middle, on a drag route, up the seam, or outside. Whatever they've been doing to get him open, it's been working. He's got 6 touchdowns this season, which is tied for the second most amongst tight ends. Like he's been very good this season. He had 14 targets in week 1, 7 in week 2, 9 in week 3. Like he only had 1 game where he had fewer than 7 targets. And now you're telling me that Alex Singleton is going to have the responsibility of slowing him down? I don't see a world where that happens. He's a touchdown in 4 straight games. And Dre Greenlaw, I think, would have been a great matchup in pass coverage to slow Ferguson down. But I would not be surprised if we see 8 catches, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns from Jake Ferguson this week. And there's nobody to blame except Dre Greenlaw. Like, I get it. The ref pushed Surtain. I get it. The ref made a bad DPI call. You got to have composure. You got to keep yourself together. And he didn't. And now he's costing his team in a valuable spot. It's tough. It's tough.
And he's not only costing him his team, he's costing himself. He's costing himself a lot of money, more money than I think I've ever seen in my entire life. He's costing himself $282,000 in a game check. Just take a second to let that sink in.
And usually it's only so the one thing I wish that we could see is what he said. Yeah. I want to see a transcript, because usually something like this is a $15,000 to $25,000 fine. Hey, don't do this again. We'll see you next week. So I don't know what he said to get an unpaid game suspension without pay, but it had to have been bad. The NFL will never show us or release to us what he said, but it's got to be bad to go from $25,000 fine to a game suspension. That's $282,000.
Insane. And I wish that we could get that one guy who's on TikTok who does the MLB transcriptions. Have you seen that guy before?
Yeah.
Get him on this Dre Greenlaw case. Can we go out and we sign him to this, something like this, where he can just read his lips for a quick second, because I need to know what was said there. And nonetheless, the game is over. The final whistle was blown. You don't know the refs anymore. Once the final whistle is blown, those guys stop existing to you. It's your team. Celebrate with your freaking team. Yes. You just hit a game-winning field goal after putting up 33 points in the fourth quarter, and your main goal is to go yell at the ref. I don't care how warranted it was. I don't care what the problem was. I don't care what he was saying. You cost yourself, you cost the team a terrible, terrible mistake, and not something that you want to see from somebody who's already sat out for 5 weeks of a season. Terrible, terrible decision from him. It just bad. Poorly executed. But there's one more topic we want to touch on, and this one's a really, really fun one. Reading about all this going on yesterday was making me smile. There's a beef going on again between Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Do these guys ever stop? They're like two little chihuahuas on the other side of a street that are just barking at each other. And, if the owners let them go, they're not going to actually do anything when they see each other. These guys were across the field. When the game ended, they could have talked. But no, they didn't do anything. They're just going to keep beefing over social media. These two guys make me laugh. Let's talk about it. But before we do, let's play the video of Sean Payton's press conference where he made a little slight dig at Russell Wilson. Play that video real quick.
They found a little spark with that quarterback. I was talking to John Mayer not too long ago, and I said we were hoping that change would have happened long after our game.
So basically what he's saying there is that they found their guy in Jackson Dart. They were hoping that Sean Payton was hoping that they'd make the change to Jackson Dart after the Broncos got their revenge game against Russell Wilson. And I get what he's saying, because that's the same kind of thing we were saying all last week. We were talking about, it sucks. Russ couldn't play second year in a row, not playing against Denver. And honestly, before we go more into it, there was a point where Russ looked ready to go out there. He was ready. I'm not going to say Russ was scared to play. He had his helmet on. Jackson Dart had that little leg injury or whatever it was, but Russ looked ready to go. It's not on him that he was scared to play. It was the fact that the coach, Brian Daboll, does not want Russ to play at all. So I get what Sean's saying, because we were saying the same thing, but as a head coach, you can't really say that, honestly.
Don't say that. Keep that in the locker room. Everybody's thinking it, but don't step up to the podium and say it, because now we're talking about it. Now people are focused on this Sean Payton, Russell Wilson beef instead of Broncos, Cowboys, or I don't even know who the Giants are playing this week. But it's just why are we bringing this up? And Broncos fans are we're so far removed, or almost fully removed, from this Russell Wilson thing. And we get it. We saw it. Payton hated Russell Wilson. They didn't mesh. Wilson didn't fit his play style. But don't get up on the mic and victory lap and do it. Like, just eat it and keep it to yourself.
Yeah, and that's basically what Russell Wilson was saying. He has his Twitter response right here. Take a look at what Russell Wilson responded with. He said, "Classless, but not surprised. Didn't realize you're still bounty hunting 15 plus years later through the media. Hashtag let's ride." I don't hate the response. I don't hate the response at all. I honestly a little round of applause. That's a fair response for Russell Wilson. It made me laugh when I saw it. Okay, I'm going to put myself out here right now, and I'm going to say something that our watchers right now might hate me for. I didn't hate Russell Wilson when he was here. I didn't. I feel like he got a very bad rap. He was in a bad situation. It wasn't his fault that he was paid $200 million or whatever before he ever took a snap. It's not his fault that he got old. Now it is his fault that he couldn't, connect with a player to save his life. He kept throwing the ball out of bounds. He sucked. I'm not going to say he didn't suck, but it's not his fault that he was in this position. This beef going on right now, though, it's just hilarious. What do you say about that?
Yeah, and like going back to your point, like we saw, so like he had that awesome season in 2020, and then he declined in 2021, and the Seahawks were smart. They're like, hey, this guy's getting old. We've gotten a decade out of him. Let's get off of him. And they got, and I think it was a great trade by the Seahawks to get off of him. And like you said, you can't fault a guy for signing a check that says $242 million on it. Like,
yeah, that's not. No, I'm good. I'm not going to be that good, actually.
That's
Sorry, I don't want to sign this check.
Yes. See, that's on Payton. And then obviously, it's the same thing that's happened with Michael Porter Jr. over the last few years. Like, these guys get these crazy contracts, and then fans turn on them because they're expecting them to play like max players, and it's just the front office's fault for judging them incorrectly. Mm-hmm. And now the Russ thing, like, yes, it was bad. It was bad with Hackett. It was bad with Payton, and they got out of it early.
No matter what, it wasn't going to work.
There were like 3 good games in Pittsburgh last year. There was 1 good game in New York this year, but that was against the Cowboys defense, who we just talked about is not that good.
Yeah, exposed them before they were exposed.
And like, do you remember the video of Payton like fully screaming at Russ on the sideline in 2023?
And Russ is just standing there like this.
It's clear that they don't like each other, but it's like, why do we need to keep going back and taking shots? Like, I just don't get it. I will say I love the response from Russell Wilson, the Bounty Gate thing.
Yeah, take a look at it again one more time.
Awesome.
It's hilarious.
Just awesome. And for me, like, I didn't think Wilson, like, I fully thought that Wilson was like always just going to be that kind of robotic, kind of level-headed, like, keep, like, glass half full, like, keep positive mindset, which is great. I would never expect this from him.
No.
Do you know how much Russell Wilson has to hate you for you to break his persona? Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, he never does that. And for Sean Payton to say that, for Russ to go out and make a bounty hunting comment, that is insane. I don't care who you are. If you break his persona that bad, he hates your guts.
It's like how much work you have to put in to get the AI to go off script, like to break ChatGPT. Like, that's what that felt like. Like, how much work do you have to put in to make your paper unrecognizable by your professor? Like, that's what that felt like. It's insane. I love the response. I really think it's 1-0 Russ right now. Russ took the first round. What's Sean going to do next round? Well, what's going to happen next year when Russ gets traded to the freaking Raiders because Geno Smith isn't working out and we've got to see him twice a year? That's my dream. That's what I want to see right now. That would be true. I would be so happy. So freaking happy. But moving on to our last segment of the day, it's a waiver wire Wednesday. Leave some comments down below. Let us know what you guys are thinking, which players you like around the league. But Trent, why don't you kick us off with who you're liking this week?
I'm going to start. My first player I got, this one might be a little basic. I'm going with the Unk. I'm going with Joe Flacco. 342 yards, 3 touchdowns.
In the Unk Bowl.
Big thing for me, 168 of those 342 yards were yards after the catch. He doesn't have to go out here and layer these 20-yard dig routes, get these corner routes in between the safety and the underneath corner. You just got to throw the ball to Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase had 23 targets.
Yeah.
23.
I
and
loved
can
it.
you blame him? If I was a quarterback, I'd be giving Jamar 50 targets. Like,
Yeah.
he's that good. And he realized it. He was like, hey, wow, I have T. Higgins over here and I have Jamar Chase over here. Let's just get them the football.
Yeah.
And it worked
That's all
well.
it takes.
And he took care of the ball. And I think that he's going to be a solid – I mean, I don't know if he's going to be your week-to-week starter, and he's not going to throw for 340 and 3 touchdowns every week. But I think he showed last week that he could be a competent backup on your bench for when your quarterback has a bye week. I mean, you can't argue with 340 and 3 touchdowns. And remember, Mike Tomlin was not happy when the Browns traded Flacco to the Bengals, and he showed why. This is still a solid quarterback who's a former Super Bowl MVP. So I think that he'd be a solid backup quarterback to go pick up. That's my first pick. Who's yours?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few good ones. This was a harder week for me, but my first pick is Isaiah Bond for the Cleveland Browns, a wide receiver there. Of course, the rookie. A lot of fun to watch in college, but hasn't performed very well in the NFL. But it's not necessarily because he's not been given chances. He's gotten the chances. He's gotten the targets. In his last 3 games, he got 6 targets, 7 targets, 5 targets. He's just got to get it going. Once the Dylan Gabriel connection can exist between him and Isaiah Bond, then it'll start to pick up. This could be the week where he finally goes off. He finally gets makes the most of those targets, because you look at him in the 6-target game, he had 3 receptions, 7 targets, 2 receptions, 5 targets, 2 receptions. Once he starts getting, 5 receptions on 6 targets, then it'll start to pick up for him. This could be the game where it switches for him. If he can get those 6 or 7 targets and make the most of them with 5 or 6 receptions, we'll see him snowball into a better player. It just takes 1 week, and I think that this is the week for him. Go back to you. What do you got for your second pick?
Number 2, I got Oronde Gadsden II.
Oh, you're going deep.
That's not a popular name. Tight end for the Chargers and Justin Herbert. I was talking earlier how Justin Herbert, the only way they can win football games is Herbert throwing 400 yards. And his targets the last 2 weeks, he had 8 targets against Miami. He had 9 targets last week against the Colts. 7 catches in both those games. I mean, last week, 168 yards and a touchdown. I know that's not sustainable, but the week before he had 68 yards. Like, that's solid production you want from a tight end. I know there's a lot of tight end injuries around the league. Like Darren Waller's hurt, Brock Bowers is hurt. So I think that he's another good option. He's shown that he's coming on the scene, and Justin Herbert has shown that he trusts him. And I don't see any reason why he doesn't keep getting 7, 8, 6 targets going forward. And you don't need 20 points from your tight end, but I think if you get 11 or 12, I think that's fine. And I think that Gadsden can do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll stick on the tight end train. I'm right there with you. I picked this guy last week, and it ended up working out pretty well for me. I'm riding it again. Jonnu Smith for the Pittsburgh Steelers had a great game last week. One of his best performances. 3 catches for 28 yards, but he did get a touchdown. So not really the biggest, flashiest numbers, but that right there is sustainable. If they can continue to keep their tight ends involved, which Pittsburgh does very, very well. They run those sets with a lot of tight ends out there. We've seen it work for them. And Jonnu Smith, had a great year with Miami last year. And this was the game where he finally turned back up. I think he'll become one of the favorite targets moving into these later weeks in the season. And again, this week would be great going against the Packers, who have the 31st ranked defense against tight ends. The Steelers are going to eat them up with those big guys on the line. So I expect another big game for Jonnu Smith. All right, Trent, what's your last pick? And then we'll do mine.
Last one, I got Josh Downs, wide receiver for the Colts. Now, he's a little weird. He's coming off a concussion, so he didn't play last week. He's still listed as questionable for this week. We'll see how he does at practice today, Thursday, Friday. We'll see if he's limited, if he's full or whatnot. But the last 2 games he played prior to missing this week's game against the Chargers, he had 8 targets against the Raiders. He had 7 targets against the Cardinals. He had his first touchdown of the season against the Cardinals 2 weeks ago. This Colts offense is a juggernaut. I said it earlier. They look like one of the most polished teams in the AFC. Josh Downs, still a young guy. He was drafted in 2023 out of North Carolina. He's small. He's 5'9", 170 pounds. You get the ball in that guy's hands, though, and he's gone. He can make so many plays happen after the catch. So If he's healthy with this coming off his concussion, I think he'd be a good pickup just because Daniel Jones has shown he's loving to spread the wealth amongst this Colts offense when they're not giving the ball to Jonathan Taylor on the ground. Obviously, the concussion's a little weird, but I think he's a good receiver to stash on the bench.
I like that. And for my last pick, I'm not going to lie, a bit of a shot in the dark, but I like patterns. Football's a game of patterns, and if the pattern stays true for this guy, he could have a really big week. That's Tyler Algier for the Falcons. Strangely, I was looking through the stats, and this is really just one of those that I could see popping off this week. So take a look at this. Week 1, he had 2 points. Week 2, he had 15 points. Week 3, he had 1 point. Week 4, he had 16 points. Week 5 was a bye, so 0. Week 6, 10 points. Week 7, 1 point. That means going into week 8, we should, if the pattern stays true, expect about 10 to 15 points from Tyler Algier. Now, that being said, Bijan Robinson has been incredible, but Tyler Algier has been taking a lot of snaps too. Great third down back, can get in there and still extend plays, can make plays after getting the ball breaking through. I can see a very good week coming out of Tyler Algier, but honestly, that one is a bit of a shot in the dark just because I love the patterns. I really love the patterns. But that'll do it. Those are our picks for Waiver Wire Wednesday. I do want to read some of your guys' comments. Good morning, Joey and Trent. Good morning, Roy. Always good to see you in the show. There are so many issues on this offense. It's a whole unit issue. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
We've talked about inconsistency, and that's something that stands true. The past 3 weeks have been nothing more than an inconsistent offense that they've luckily been able to get some success out of. Going up against a team like the Dallas Cowboys, who are looking to score every single time they have the ball in their hands, inconsistency is not going to work. They have to have the best offense imaginable, especially against one of the worst defenses in the league, which they can easily capitalize on. 100%. That's what I think about that one. Let's see. This offense is inconsistent. It's almost like you were reading my mind on that last little one right there. Definitely agree. If they can beat the Cowboys with the number 1 offense, I believe we can beat anyone. That is something I don't know that I can agree with. When we say anyone, do we mean anyone? We beat the Eagles. That was my the Broncos can beat anyone moment. The Cowboys, though, number 1 offense, sure, but the Broncos are the number 1 defense. That's just a good battle right there. We're talking about a number 1 offense for the Cowboys going up against the number 1 defense, and a terrible offense in the Broncos going up against a terrible offense in the Cowboys. And yeah, I said terrible offense because terrible goes with inconsistent. I don't know if they can beat anyone with a win here, but it would help out. It would be a good win against a really good offensive team, but I don't know if that is enough for me to say they can beat anyone. What do you think, Trent?
Yeah, that one's tricky. I think that depends on how the game goes. If they beat the Cowboys 16-13 and the offense looks bad, but the defense holds their own, I don't really think that says a whole lot. But I think if the offense gets it going and the offense puts up 30 points again, I think that could be a sign hey, 30 points against the Giants. Hey, 30 points against the Cowboys. Let's see if this offense is starting to get it going now. So I think it depends on the game, but if the offense plays well and they win, I think that I'd agree with Brad on that one, that they could really hang with anyone in this league.
Yeah. It will come down to me for how many quarters they can win.
Yes. Are they going to win one? Are they going to win the 4th quarter again? Or are they going to win the 2nd and 3rd quarters finally, which they can't do for some reason?
That we've seen them win the 1st, and we've seen them win the 4th, and that matters a lot. I mean, that's where the game is really played. That's very important. But the meat of the game is in the 2nd and 3rd quarters. You got to win those 2. You got to make the most of those. The Broncos haven't been able to do that. He also expanded. Brad said being 5-2 with an inconsistent offense and all the penalties is really impressive. I do agree with that. I 110% agree with that. The Broncos have came out of these games with wins in the bad situations that they've been in some of the rough and tough games that they played in. The Eagles game was really hard. That was a hard-fought victory, and there were penalties, and there were things holding them back. Even one of their losses was on a penalty, and you're 5-2. That's a really good record to me. That I feel good about that. I feel 110% good about that. I agree with you, Brad.
Yeah, and look, if you had somebody watch the Giants game on Sunday and you covered the Broncos record on the scoreboard and their record was blank, what'd you say, 3-4? That looked like a 3-4 team, probably 2-5 team. I mean, they didn't
around
look
there.
good.
Around
and
there.
they're 5-2. So like I said, there's so much room for improvement, and yet they're still sitting here atop the division and third place, really tied for second in the whole AFC. Like, it's impressive that they haven't come close to their ceiling and they're still 5-2.
Yeah, I agree with you. But that'll do it for today's episode From the Nosebleeds. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We're going to be talking a lot about the Nuggets because, of course, the season opener is here. I'm already wearing my vest. You know, I cannot be more excited. I love Nuggets basketball, and it'll finally be back tomorrow. NBA started off with a banger game yesterday. I hate OKC, but wow, what a game between
So
OKC and the Rockets. We got double overtime in the first game of the season. This is already looking to be like a great NBA season. But tomorrow, of course, we're going to be talking some Nuggets and a little bit more Broncos getting ready for this big matchup against the Cowboys. So make sure you all tune in tomorrow. But until then, y'all have a great rest of your day, and we will see you all later. Bye, y'all.